Hello everyone, myself Astha Verma and I am working as a nursing tutor in Rama University, Kanpur. And today I am back with a new topic, that is Huntington's disease, that is also a neurological disorder, and this topic will be covered under following headings. First we will discuss about definition, then causes and risk factors, and then the pathophysiology of the Huntington's disease, and then clinical manifestation and after diagnosis, and lastly we will discuss about the management. So before starting the topic Huntington's disease, I would like to discuss about what is Huntington's, why it is named as Huntington's disease. So the term Huntington's is firstly coined by the American doctor named Mr. George Huntington in 1872. So before the name of American doctor Mr. George Huntington's, the disease is named as Huntington's disease. And why it is called as chorea? Because the word chorea is directly meant the jerky movements. So the definition of Huntington's disease is, it is a chronic, progressive, hereditary disease of the central nervous system that results in the progressive involuntary movements. So simply it can be said that Huntington's disease is a hereditary disease because it transfers from one generation to the another generation, and it is a disease of the central nervous system. So it directly affects the central nervous system, means it affects the brain of our body, and it leads to the progressive involuntary or jerky movements. One thing there is an important thing to be remembered, that there are two parts. One is basal ganglia and second one is the cerebral cortex. The basal ganglia and cerebral cortex are responsible for the cognitive functions and movement of our body. So in that disease, the both of the parts are affected here. So next one is the causes or risk factors. How Huntington's disease is being caused. So the etiology of the Huntington's disease is etiogenic. That means simply that there is no exact cause of Huntington's disease. And second one factor that is going to affect the person, that is family history. If any one person's history is of Huntington's disease, means in the past generation, if any person is being affected by the Huntington's disease, there are more chances to transfer it into the next generation. Then some of the genetic factors are also going to affect any persons. So if there is any mutations or any alteration in the genetic structure, so it can also lead to the Huntington's. And finally it is the age factors. It is well known that if any person is of 20 years to the 55 years of age, these persons are more prone to be affected by the Huntington's disease. Further we comes to the pathophysiology. Pathophysiology, how it being occur in any persons. So due to any type of etiological factors, it may be any genetic factors, or it may be family history of, or it may be any age factors. So due to any type of etiological factors, there is an premature death of cells of the basal ganglia. So basal ganglia is responsible for the movements of the body. So if there is a premature death of cells of basal ganglia, so it further leads to the loss of cells of the cerebral cortex part. And when there is loss of cells of the cerebral cortex part, further it leads to the loss of cells of cerebellar part. Then it leads to the lack of neurotransmitters, like example GABA and acetylcholine. GABA means to gamma amino butyric acid. So when there is a lack of neurotransmitters like GABA, there is an increased dopamine. There is a one thing important, that dopamine and GABA, these both are the neurotransmitters, and the GABA neurotransmitter is going to balance the level of the dopamine. So if there is lack of GABA, means gamma amino butyric acid neurotransmitter, it leads to the increased level of the dopamine. So if there is an increased level of dopamine just leads to the increased movement of the body. So further it leads to the chorea. What is chorea? Chorea just means to the jerky movement. So finally it causes the jerky movements, means uncontrolled and involuntary movements into the body of the patient. So that too was all about the pathophysiology of Huntington's disease. So now we are coming towards the clinical manifestations, means when we are going to assess any patient suffering from that disease. So if we are assessing, we can classify the symptoms in the three columns. So first one is regarding the movement disorders, and second one is regarding the cognitive disorders, and lastly the psychiatric disorders. As we have already discussed that there are two parts of the brain that are affected here. One is the cerebral cortex and second one is the basal ganglia. So movement disorders are due to the affecting part of the basal ganglia. So if we are talking about the movement disorders, which type of symptoms can be shown here regarding the movement disorder? So first one is the involuntary jerky movements. As we all know, what is going to occur in Huntington's disease is that here is involuntary and jerky movements, means there are rapidly irregular or involuntary type of movements here. So if we are assessing any patient of this disease, we can simply see that the patient's movement are incoordinated. So if we are seeing the patient, his hands are in other direction and legs are in the other direction. So when we are seeing the patient, it can be seen the patient is like a dancing movement. So the posture of the patient is like he is in dancing position. So because of this reason, the Huntington disease is also known as dancing disease. If we talk about the next symptom regarding the movement is that the patient is having muscle rigidity. What is muscle rigidity? That patient is having stiffness. If we ask the patient to move the body parts according to his will, so the patient is not able to move the parts according to his or her own will. So there is muscle stiffness is there. Next is the impaired coordination or balance. The patient is having impaired body functioning. Regarding this, there is an impaired coordination or balancing problem. So next one is the irregular eye movement. The patient is having irregular eye movements. If we just ask the patients to move the eyeballs according to his will, so he is not able to move the eyeballs. Next, there is also found dysphagia. What is dysphagia? The patient is not able to take the food properly because there is an loss of coordination or irregular movements of the muscles. So when the patient is about to take the food, he is not able to take the food in a proper manner. To related with that symptom, there is also when the patient is not able to speak properly also. So that was all about the movement disorders. Next is the cognitive disorders. Cognitive disorder, here is occurrence of cognitive disorder because there is a defect in the part of the cerebral cortex. So if we talk about the cognitive disorders, the patient is having slowness in the processing of the thoughts. Like that, if we asking the patient to talk regarding some topics, so what we can see, the patient is just thinking for a moment, then he will speak something. Means there is a time duration between speaking and thinking because the processing of thought is late here. So the patient will think for a moment and after he will take some duration to answer of that questions or any type of that. So next one is the patient is having loss of coordination and also he is not able to perform his daily task or activities. So if we are assigning any type of task to the patient, so he is not able to perform these type of tasks easily. Also related to that, the patient is not able to perform his or her own daily activities also. The next related to cognitive disorder is that the person is having disorientation. So if we are asking the patient about the time, place or person where he is residing, so the person is not able to answer that type of questions easily. So he is having disorientation regarding his or her own surroundings. So next is that the patient is having difficulty in focusing. Means the patient is not able to focus on any type of object or any type of task here. Next regarding to cognitive disorder is that patient is not able to learn the new things. If we talk about the normal processing, the person is able to learn the new things easily, but in that case the person is feeling some problematic in learning the new things. Okay. So next is about the psychiatric disorders. If we talk about the psychiatric disorder symptoms, there is a feeling of sadness. The person suffering with that disease is feeling the sad all the time or every time. Next, the person is having fatigue and depression also. Next one related to this is that the person is having the social withdrawal, means he is not engaged in the social activities. So due to this, he is not interested in any type of the social activities also. So related to this, he is having suicidal tendency. The person is thinking about to committing the suicide every time. And last one symptom related to the psychiatric disorder is that there is a loss of sexual drive, means the patient is not interested in the sexual activities also. So these three type of disorders are related to the clinical manifestations. Now we are coming towards the diagnostic evaluation, means how we are going to assess any type of patient that he is suffering with the Huntington's or not. So first one related to this is the history collection. First we have to collect all type of history of the patients. Next we can conduct a physical thorough examination. When we are going to conduct the thorough physical examination, we can easily assess these type of clinical manifestation or three kinds of the disorders here. Next we can perform the CT scanning and MRI. Next, we can conduct a neurological examination. Through the use of neurological examination, we can assess the neurological status of the patient, in which we can assess the eye response, verbal response and motor response of the patients. Finally, we can assess the electroencephalogram. What is electroencephalogram? Through the use of this type of electric machine, we can assess the level of neurotransmitters in that patients. So here are the points how can we diagnose any patient regarding the Huntington's chorea or Huntington's disease. Finally, we are moving towards the management, how we are going to manage any patient that is suffering from the Huntington's chorea disease. So as we all know that there is no any exact etiology of the Huntington's disease or dancing disease. So there is no any exact cause and there is no any exact treatment related to this disease. The main goal to treat this disease is to focus on minimizing the symptoms. Only what can we do? We just can focus on minimizing the symptoms. What type of symptoms are occurring in the patient, we can just minimize or reducing the symptoms here. So these four type of drugs can be prescribed here. First one is the antipsychotic drugs. What is antipsychotic drugs? Antipsychotics type of drugs are given to relieve the psychotic symptoms of the patient. So what in this disease antipsychotics will do? Antipsychotics will decrease the level of the dopamine here. As we have discussed in the pathophysiology that there is an increased level of dopamine, that is a neurotransmitter. So through the use of antipsychotic drugs, we can reduce the level of dopamine here. Next is the muscle relaxants. What will muscle relaxants do? The muscle relaxants drugs are given to reduce the chances of muscle stiffness or muscle rigidity here. So apart from that, we can also prescribe the patient antidepressant drugs. What antidepressant will do? Antidepressant drugs are given to reduce the depression of the patient, and we can also provide the anti-anxiety drugs. Anti-anxiety drugs are given to relieve from the anxiety. So that was all about the management of the Huntington's disease. Here are some rehabilitative measures also. What are rehabilitative measures? Rehabilitative measures are the measures that are used to regain the normal functioning of the patient. If any person is suffering from the Huntington's disease or Huntington's chorea, we can use the rehabilitative measures to regain the functioning of the patients again. So here we can use some type of therapies. First one is the psychotherapy, speech therapy second, third is the physical therapy, and finally we can use the occupational therapy. So moving towards the psychotherapy, what is done in the psychotherapy? There is a psychotherapist which will help the patient to regain the functioning regarding the behavior, because there is a behavioral symptoms also occurring. So through the use of psychotherapy, we can just relieve the symptoms of the behavioral disorders. So second one is the speech therapy. In Speech therapy, the speech therapist will provide some points regarding the communications, as he can give some pictures of the things that he is using for the daily, as there is a loss of the performing the daily task or activities. So through the use of speech therapy we can provide some pictures of the daily activity thinkings. So through the use of speech therapy we can regain the functionings regarding the activities. Next one is the physical therapy. Physical therapy is provided by the physiotherapist. A physiotherapist will assist the patient. He will provide some passive exercises to the patient. What will passive exercises will do? So through the use of passive exercises, there the muscle there is a loss of muscle strength. So through the use of physical therapy, the flexibility of the muscles, the rigidity of the muscles can be improved here. So finally, there is an occupational therapy. What is done in the occupational therapy? Occupational therapy is just we are using to regain the previous functioning. If the person is doing something or some activities prior, before the occurrence of the disease, so through the use of occupational therapy we can regain the purposeful functioning of the patients here. So that was all about the Huntington disease or Huntington's chorea. We have discussed about the definition, etiological risk factors, then pathophysiology, clinical manifestation, then diagnostic evaluation, and finally we discussed about the management, in which we discussed about the pharmacological management, and also apart from that we have discussed about the rehabilitative measures. Okay, thank you.